the dealership, service was a big problem. The first mechanic that came in the door for me that became my mechanic, we already had the wrecker, a nice wrecker to show that we were in business, and but the mechanic that walked in had all of his tools in a little, they called it a barn roof top on his toolbox. He was carrying it. Imagine that today. But his name was Troy or something or other, and he was my first mechanic. So I knew that things were going to be tough, but I'm already in business. I'm selling some cars, and I got to fix them. And so I got a technical service bulletin, and it tells all the problems and how to fix them. And when they, like the Ford-O-Matic transmission, they called it, I think I counted 13 times in the first couple of years that they called it back for different things to try to make it work right. And so I go through things such as so A through Z, really the problems were A for axles and Thunderbirds, and air conditioners, and B for bumpers. The bumpers were too thin. They bump when you'd hit them. They'd dent like a fender. Carburetors leaking. The dampener on the thing, on the exhaust system, making noise. The exhaust manifolds cracking. The front end was bad. Tire wear, shimmy. Grills, they had all kinds of problems on both every cars and trucks, and the aluminum grills were too thin. The plastic grills were too cheap. The hardtop four-door, no vent needed. While you're driving it, the doors would have cracks between the outside and the I-beam construction. That was bad. That held the front end together. Jump seats in the 10-passenger. Some had some questions. And knocks, the word of the day, knocks. We sound of piston slap while the engine was cold. The sound of ball joints even sometimes when car was new. The sound of the drive gear in the transmission. Sound of the rear axles. All those different things, and so it really wasn't as good as Chevrolet. And in the area, they had a lot less grief, but we go in and torque knock when you'd be going up a hill, it would make a knock in the engine. The headlights rotated in the Thunderbirds and wouldn't open. They'd rotate to close and shut them off so stones wouldn't hit them. And all the electric motors and every one of those could be, and when you get that flip top came out, I remember one day I put the top up and then the motor went bad, but the engines in the cars were just as bad. The 292, the 298, the 302, and the 400 engines had all kinds of problems, and the neutral switch on the was a bad one. That's to keep it so it would shut off the gears, shut off the transmission. Oil pressure gauge in the Thunderbird, my gosh, the lights would go out. Parking brake, my gosh, the problems with that, wouldn't even hold properly. Quarter panels, what a shame they were. They had dents from the factory, rust everywhere. I remember one farmer coming in with a truck, and he had the back of it was so bad that he had to put boards in there to put his milk cans on it. The radio tape decks were bad. They were Philcos. That was really a bad thing. And I had a 67 Lincoln that gave me a tape. That wouldn't work. The steering was always bad on them. All big problems with the pumps and the check valves and so on. And the T-tops on the cars would leak. And they were always bad because there's nothing you can say. The unitized body, good or bad, this was a reference to the whether the car had a frame under it or not. All people thought they had to have a frame, but they done away the frame, made it cheaper. In 1968, the T-Birds and Lincolns, better or worse than the other ones before them. who knows how they got along there. They had problems, and the dealers had to fight all of that kind of stuff. And that was pretty bad too. And vibrations, oh my God, it's hard to get the shake out of it no matter what you did. Whether the roads were bad or not, that car would be shaken. And the fish tails on the wagons, because they were too light of springs on the back, was a real problem. And the crisscross of the tires, you had to do that all the time because they'd wear so fast with everything that was out of line. The zinc plating on the car was another thing. It would, where they'd zinc plate something, and then the welder would weld it, and then it would rust because it'd burn the zinc off. And that was always a big problem. So the problems A through Z, but a small percentage of the problems I saw. But they were there, all there, and Ford knew it. Ford knew it, that the main thing was they had to stay in business.